All right, let's just jump right into this explainer. We're about to embark on an incredible, honestly sprawling journey, a journey that stretches back over 1,500 years. Today, we're tracing the lineage of a pursuit that started with ancient kings, simulated the brutality of physical war, demanded the absolute peak of human strategy, and ultimately transformed into a modern digital battlefield. We're looking at the evolution of chess.
So, what if I told you that a game played well over 15 centuries ago is now being mastered, and I mean truly mastered, by machines? It's kind of a wild paradox, right? How does an ancient pastime, something originally designed for royal courts and played by candlelight, suddenly become the ultimate testing ground for artificial intelligence? To really understand how we got to this digital frontier, we've got to go all the way back to where the very first pawn was moved.
Section 1. Birth of the Battlefield. We're transporting ourselves back to 6th century ancient India, where chess was actually born, under a totally different name, Chaturanga.
Now, Chaturanga wasn't just some abstract puzzle. It was a literal simulation of real physical warfare. The army was split into 4 distinct forces. You had your infantry, your cavalry, elephants, and chariots. Think of it less like a board game and more like a full-blown military campaign simulator. Every single piece had a highly specific purpose and movement, exactly as they would in the dust and chaos of a real ancient battle. You weren't just a player, you were a commander.
As empires naturally traded and interacted with each other, the game started to travel. From India, it made its way over to Persia, where Chaturanga evolved into a new version called Shatranj. And honestly, this brings up a piece of linguistic history that is absolutely brilliant. When Persian players cornered their opponent, they declare victory by saying Shah Mat. That literally translates to, "The king is helpless." Over centuries of translations, and probably a few mispronunciations along the way, Shah Mat morphed into the most famous phrase in all of gaming, checkmate.
Let's actually trace this remarkable path. We kick things off in ancient India back in the 6th century. From there, the game moves into Persia. Following the Islamic conquests, Shatranj spreads like wildfire throughout the Islamic world over the following centuries. And finally, carried along those bustling trade routes and by expanding empires, it makes its way into Europe during the Middle Ages. And as it crossed these massive borders, it didn't just survive, it mutated. It constantly adapted to the cultures that embraced it.
Section 2. The European Transformation. Because when chess finally hit Europe, the players there didn't just adopt it, they fundamentally altered its DNA.
See, for centuries, the gameplay had been relatively slow. Pieces moved really cautiously. But by the 15th century, Europe instituted these sweeping rule changes that absolutely supercharged the board. The queen, which believe it or not was previously a pretty weak piece, suddenly became the absolute most powerful force on the board, capable of just sweeping across squares in any direction. Meanwhile, the bishop gained this devastating long-range diagonal movement. These structural tweaks were a total game-changer. They transformed chess from the slower, highly methodical exercise into the fast, sharp, and intensely aggressive modern game we recognize today.
Moving on to Section 3, Rise of the Champions. With these modern, aggressive rules finally locked in place, chess escalated into the ultimate, formalized battle of human minds. And the absolute crucial turning point of this era arrives in this exact year, 1886. Keep that number in your head, because this was the milestone year when a man named Wilhelm Steinitz was crowned the very first official world chess champion. That single event formalized the competition. It basically told the entire world, hey, this is a serious global discipline. From 1886 onward, absolute legends were born over the board. I'm talking about tactical geniuses who could effortlessly calculate a dozen moves ahead. We saw positional masters who would slowly, methodically squeeze their opponents into total submission, and these wild, creative attackers who would happily sacrifice pieces for beautiful victories. Chess became so much more than a game, It became this global symbol of human intelligence, immense patience, and profound, deep thinking. Basically, to master chess was to master the mind itself.
Section 4. Man versus machine. We're now entering the biggest, most dramatic disruption in the entire 1,500-year history of the game.
Now, we really have to remember that the threat wasn't immediate at all. Early computers, they were actually incredibly weak. When engineers first started trying to teach machines how to play, the computers made these random, absurd, and honestly almost funny mistakes. They would just blindly blunder their queens or completely miss a simple checkmate. For the longest time, human grandmasters would literally laugh at these machines. They were just an amusing novelty, right? Absolutely no way were they a threat to human intellect.
But of course, the machines kept getting faster, they kept getting stronger. And then we hit a historic turning point. In 1997, a supercomputer called Deep Blue completely defeated the reigning world champion, Garry Kasparov. The laughter stopped right then and there. For the very first time in human history, a machine built by our own hands had outplayed the absolute best human mind at our most complex game. It was a genuinely shattering moment.
Section 5. The AI synthesis. Because we have moved so far beyond Deep Blue now, introducing modern engines like Stockfish and AlphaZero that don't just crunch numbers, they actually understand the game. Okay, this is where things get truly mind-bending. Take AlphaZero. It didn't learn by studying millions of human grandmaster games. Nope. It learned simply by playing against itself. It had absolutely zero human guidance, no rules of thumb, no opening theory programmed into its code. The researchers literally just gave it the basic rules of how the pieces move, and that was it. And yet, in just a matter of hours, literally hours of self-play, it reached a terrifyingly superhuman level of strength. And the crazy part? It doesn't play like some cold, calculating robot. It boldly sacrifices pieces for long-term positional advantages. It plays with this flair that can really only be described as creative. Top grandmasters who study its moves have said that sometimes this alien intelligence feels almost human. Or, actually, scratch that, maybe completely beyond human. It's like it sees a hidden beauty in the geometry of the game that our biological brains just simply can't process. So that leaves us staring down a pretty massive question. With AI achieving this godlike level of near perfection, is there really any reason for us to keep playing? I mean, if a free app you can download on your smartphone right now can flawlessly crush the greatest human world champion in history, why even bother sitting down at the board? Well, the answer is a resounding no. We definitely won't stop playing. Today, chess for humans is no longer about just calculating the single perfect mathematically winning line. It is fundamentally about the human experience. It's about the struggle of learning a discipline, sparking our own creativity, and expressing our unique, personal style on the board. Look at it this way. Just because a forklift can lift 1,000 times more weight than a human doesn't mean we stop going to the gym to lift weights, right? It's about bettering ourselves. Instead of throwing our hands up and quitting, we've adapted. Modern players now use AI as a coach, rather than an opponent. We take these impossibly strong artificial minds, and we use them to brutally analyze our own human flaws. We use them to uncover fresh ideas, to test wild new theories, and ultimately, to elevate our own human potential. So the real takeaway from this explainer is actually quite simple. The future of chess isn't human versus machine, it's human plus machine. The ultimate evolution of this ancient game is synthesis. Artificial intelligence has proven to be an absolutely vital tool for our own growth, totally expanding our understanding of the 64 squares, rather than acting as our replacement. From those ancient dusty battlefields in 6th century India, all the way to the glowing digital alien intelligence of today, chess has survived it all. And honestly, no matter how ridiculously advanced AI becomes, there will always be something profoundly special about two human minds sitting across a physical board, engaging in the exact same timeless, ever-evolving game. It pushes us to be better today than we were yesterday. But it also leaves us with a pretty compelling thought. If artificial intelligence has now fully mastered the ultimate game of human intellect, what fundamentally human pursuit is it going to conquer next? Keep learning, keep pushing your boundaries, and as always, thank you so much for joining me to explore the fascinating depths of the world around us.